Sunday Sips with the Scribbler Set. I'm Deitra, your resident unicorn, and maybe one day we'll get into why I chose that as my animal.
I'm Brittany, the mermaid.
Hi, I'm Chantae, the fairy.
All right, so it is Sunday Sips, and we're all sipping on a little something. What are you sipping on, Chantae?
Today I have blueberry chamomile tea because it is close to bedtime and I had a long day at work. What about you, Brittany?
I am drinking Jack Daniel's lemonade because
Nice.
I work all week next week and I need some liquid.
Well, I am sipping on something a little boring, just sparkling water and some guava juice.
Ooh, I love
very
guava
tasty.
juice.
Yeah. You're welcome for that. And a little ASMR drinking going on. So this week, across all of our socials, we've been talking about writer's block. And I think that any person who's ever put ink to paper or done any kind of creative pursuit has experienced some kind of block. Would you guys agree with that?
Definitely.
Because we're all creatives here. Yeah. So when we talk about writer's block, I'll start with you, Brittany. What does writer's block look like and feel like for you?
Ooh, man. So when I know when writer's block is gonna start when I start finding everything else to do other than write. Or I'll sit like at my computer for 30 minutes and I'll type like 2 words and that's it. So it's so frustrating and it's one of those things that it's like you get to that point, then you start thinking like, what's wrong with me? I literally wrote all these pages like a week ago or a couple days ago and now I can't think of anything. So
Yeah.
What about you, Chantae?
Writer's block for me, it's kind of it doesn't really feel like anything because I just disassociate from the fact that I'm a writer. Like it just completely leaves my brain and I will go days, weeks, months, years without writing anything and then suddenly I will just hit this burst and start writing everything and I'm like a machine. I'm trying to find a happy medium where I'm producing more regularly but not putting too much pressure on myself to overproduce. What about you?
For me, I think it's kind of like a mix between the two of you guys. I have a tendency I just shut down. Like I will not I'll sit down and try to start writing something and nothing will come out. And then I just kind of give up on the idea until the next time I feel like a burst. And in the same way, it's pretty I guess the way it feels is it's like it's a little devastating because it's like you'll have like this great idea and then you start like jamming on it and then all of a sudden it's just like nothing will come out or everything feels like crap that you're writing. So it's just like then I'm just like, well, it's not even worth continuing. I suck. And so I have to like go through my whole Eeyore moment until I get back to not feeling like everything I do is shitty. And to all right, no, girl, you're awesome. And
yeah,
then
you
I
are.
get that back. But yeah, that's how it feels, and that's what it kind of looks like. Is when you see me just like absolutely just like not doing anything creative, then you know I'm like in that funk, and
I
it
feel like
stinks.
it does stink.
For me, it's like I trade one creative pursuit for another. So I'm always doing something creative, but it's like I collect hobbies. So I have a million different things that I will catch my interest, and I'm like, you know what? This is what I'm pouring all of my energy in to today, which can get pricey.
I used to have like a bunch of different, but now I just have all the stuff from all the other things that I did, and I just sit there and look at it and be like, man, I really wish I had an idea, but I don't.
Yeah. I have a whittling kit that I have like has literally I've been feeling like the tickle in the back of my head like you should whittle again like
Like what a random I'm gonna whittle. I just want to work on wood.
I really enjoy woodworking. I really do. I do wood burning too.
Yeah.
She does do amazing artwork.
Random stuff.
Brittany as well. They're just creative ladies all around.
You too.
Appreciate it. When I'm not in a stinky funk, which my funks can go for a really long time, I've realized. Like if I get too deep into it, it's like hard to dig myself back out of that little crater that I've buried myself under. But working on it. And on that note, we also discussed some of the things that we do. We shared some tips and ideas for ways that people can fight that block, because it can be pretty detrimental to your production and your pursuit of the things that you love. So what are some of the tips, or a tip that you shared that you feel would be really helpful for people, or that you want to dive into a little bit deeper this Sunday Sips day?
Cheers.
Cheers. Anybody want to go first?
I'll go.
All right.
It kind of blends into what we just talked about, but I think it is important to have other ways that you're expressing yourself. So even if it's different forms of writing, if you're more of a novelist, maybe taking time to just journal about your life, go outside, people watch, observe, and just write what you see. Or if you never have written a poem, try starting out with a haiku and tickle your creative side in different ways to keep those engines going. So I have a lot of different avenues in which I can express myself. So like today, I just got home from teaching a pottery wheel night, and that really gets out a lot of like stress. It's physical. I'm using my hands. And then now I feel ready to sit down and write some more things. And I'm not forcing myself to only focus on writing. Like, I'm a writer, but I am other things. So I would say giving yourself other avenues to express yourself, so that way you don't feel too much pressure to perfectly express yourself in words all the time, because it can get a little bit daunting and it can get a little bit exhausting, and it's easy to slide into that darkness when you feel like, oh, it's just not enough. So if you have something else that's fulfilling you and fulfilling that creative side, because you're a creative person, it won't be too detrimental on your writing process. And if anything, the more that I do these things, like going out, doing the art classes and meeting new people, I feel more fueled for my writing, because I'm seeing new avenues of life. I'm meeting new people from different walks of life, having conversations that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So it helps me then with things like dialogue and writing settings, writing new places. So it's really important to have a well-rounded life. Don't just sit there and melt away in front of the screen.
I agree with that so much. Like, the trying other types of writing. One thing that really helped me was starting to write short stories. I started entering some writing contests, and they were like 100 words or 500 words, and it helped. Like, those I really am a huge advocate for. Like, just writing 100-word stories, it's a real challenge when you have a prompt.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it has to be this type of genre. It has to have this word in it. And then writing 100 words of a story that makes sense, it helps you really to be more concise in your writing. And I like the prompts because they give you like ideas for things that you never would have thought of in the first place. So I do agree with you on that, Chantae. I'm a huge advocate. What about you, Brittany?
I kind of do both. I like to do different kinds of writing. Like, over the past year, I haven't really been working on my novel, but I took a deep dive into poetry, and I've never considered myself a poet, but it seemed like I was having so many like thoughts, even the negative thoughts, like I kind of hovered there. And I was just like, you know what? Like, even if I just write those things down, like, at least I'm doing something. And I found out that I really liked it. It was like getting all of my emotions out. Sometimes it seemed like in song lyrics or whatever. But Another thing I like to do, and this probably sounds a little bit extra, is I like to kind of meditate on it. Like if I have like a specific scene or a story that I'm working on and I want to like kind of create the environment, I'll get on YouTube and do like ambient music or like forest sounds and kind of just lay there and kind of think about, you know, what would happen next. Just let all the thoughts come and go. And like it really helps create a scene, and then it'll start like those creative juices going, like, oh, okay, I have the background noise of a tavern, what would I do in the tavern, blah 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 blah, and then see, like where it goes. And that is something that I know has really helped me, because when I was writing my book I would get stuck and I'd be like, I don't know what to write. And sometimes you do need to pause for a little bit and just let your brain go through all the things that it's thinking and what's keeping it from getting those thoughts out, and then eventually you'll be able to let it flow.
I think I inadvertently do that while I'm trying to fall asleep. If I have something that I need to be working on writing, I'll be like, oh, maybe I'm meditating, but I'm actually trying to fall asleep, and then it'll pop in my head what I want to write next, and I have to go pull out my phone or something and write it down real quick before I forget.
Yeah, I do that.
I like the idea of like immersing yourself in the sounds of like whatever scene it is that you're trying to create, and then letting that scene just kind of flow from that. I think that's really cool. So a tip for me that I think has been pretty helpful is to just keep writing. Sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves for it has to sound a certain way, or like it has to be perfect, and so that we get hung up on it instead of just moving forward. And so my tip is like just keep writing. Like even if you feel like it's trash, like just keep writing, because you can always go back and edit. And in that editing phase is when, you know, sometimes the story will start to develop more, or you'll just completely scrap it and you'll go another direction, but at least you kept going and you didn't lose that momentum on what you were trying to create. So yeah, that's my tip. Just keep writing. Like
that's good.
You're not the final judge on, well, you know, you are, but if you want to keep yourself motivated, just write and then go back, and then you can just like scrap it if you want to, but keep going.
Or edit it. Like if you've ever got to a point to where it's like, oh man, I got this far in a story and then it went dead, like you can always go back, go through and like take what you thought was good or change it around. Like that's kind of what I did with my story, because I had started it and like I left it and abandoned it for like a year, and then I came back and I was like, oh man, that was kind of good. So, and then you know, you have fresh eyes to look at it.
Yeah. And sometimes you can just skip the parts you don't feel like writing and go back to them later. I did that all the time. I would make my font giant in red and be like, come back to this. Or fill in scene here and then move on to the scene that I'm really feeling like writing that day. Because sometimes it can just feel excruciating, especially if you're writing something long, like a novel or a book. Like some scenes it just feels like nails on a chalkboard. Like you just cannot focus on that scene. So instead of scrapping the whole day, just put a pause on that scene and move on to the next one that you're actually feeling like writing that day, and then fill that in later when you're feeling inspired by it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, guys, I'm so sorry. I keep burping, everyone, and I'm trying to be really
sparkling water. It was not the move.
Like I'm hoping that it's not being picked up, but you know, it's
I can't hear it.
Me.
I haven't heard it.
Well, I'm sure everybody saw my faces, because like, it burns like fire coming up through my throat, but it's okay.
Bless.
We're all right. We're all good. But yeah, I think that's like a really good pointer. Like I know on my my short story that I'm working on, I had written like the whole like short story, and I hated it. Like I didn't like I went back and I was reading it and I was like, I like the idea, but I don't like how it's been written. So then going back again and then going through sentence by sentence, and then like it started to develop more and more, and now I'm like, well damn, I don't know if this is gonna be a short story or not, because it's as I went back into it, I'm like finding like a lot of meat where I'm like, oh, this is good. Like I want to sink my teeth in and like develop this more. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But that short story that I'm talking about is why we're all dressed the way we're dressed today. Yeah. It's our apocalypse survival story challenge. It's the story I was just talking about. I figure if it's the apocalypse, I am gonna fight birds because I hate birds, and this is so birds know not to mess with me. Okay, that's what these feathers symbolize, because I'm gonna be like out there surviving the apocalypse, and I don't want no birds messing with me because they do a lot.
See, me and my sister are similar, but there's a lot of things that we are opposite about, because I personally can't wait to get myself a good set of binoculars. I want to do bird watching. I want to befriend the crows and the ravens, and like, I love the birds. I will not be fighting the birds.
I don't fight the birds fight me. Well, that is why I'm wearing my feathers, guys, because I will mess a bird up. That's the message I'm sending out in the apocalypse. Because there are not other things that I need to be worried about. Actually, it was just because I thought this looked cool. But so our apocalypse writing challenge, it is coming to a close Monday, July 22nd by 11:59 p.m. You need to submit your stories. We've already gotten some stories in, and we're excited to see what you guys write when you place yourselves in the position of somebody in an apocalypse story.
And it's a minimum of 500 words. Easy peasy. You can knock that out in under 30 minutes. Get it to us by tomorrow.
You can do it. And you can win a $20 Barnes & Noble's gift card. And, who doesn't need more books? I probably don't, but I do.
Always need more books.
Always need more
There's
books.
no limit on the amount of books you can have.
Yeah. I just want a library. Like a full library.
Yeah.
But so we're all working on stories as well for this challenge. I mentioned mine a little bit, and don't worry guys, we're not entering the contest. We just wanted to have some fun with you guys too, and see what a story with us starring as the character in the apocalypse would look like. And so throughout the week, we're going to be sharing our stories, and we're going to start today with one of our stories, and it will be from Chantae.
Hey.
All right, you ready to share?
Sure.
Want to tell us a little bit about it?
So, like Deitra said, the goal of this challenge is to write from your POV as if you are the main character and the apocalypse is starting. So for me, as many people who know me know, if you talk about the apocalypse with me, here are my stipulations. If the apocalypse were to happen now, I would go into fierce mama bear mode, and I would do anything and everything I could to make sure that I kept my family safe. Nothing would stop me. I would do whatever it took to survive and whatever it took to help them survive. However, if the apocalypse were to happen far into the future, my children are grown adults, they're living on the other side of the world, and they have their own established safety nets, and they're okay, I'm not fighting. I am not fighting for the apocalypse. I have no interest. Listen, I have a lot of food allergies. I have a lot of nature allergies. It's just... That is not for me. Oh, God forbid it be like zombies or anything. So anyways, that's the point of view that I wrote my story from, as if it's far into the future and how that would look. And it actually got me really emotional when I was writing it. Deitra and Brittany were on the call with me because we like to parallel play, and we'll just get on the phone and get tasks done. So I was writing my story on with them, and as I was imagining my children as adults living their lives, I got really emotional and I cried. But I will not cry today as I read it to you guys, I promise. I am so strong and so brave, and I'm not going to cry. Okay, so the title of my story is A Mom in the Apocalypse. That's me. I'm the mom. Okay.
The mom-popacalypse.
It's a feminine nomenon. Okay, sorry. All right. A Mom in the Apocalypse. Please don't call me your typical boy mom when I say this, but the world came to an end after my youngest son got married. Seriously, it did. Let me explain. My youngest son, Kendrick, had finally proposed to his longtime partner after he had returned victorious from his latest competition. He was always the family's athlete and had taken his skills to the highest professional levels. With his winnings and sponsorships, he finally felt financially secure enough to support a family. My oldest, Jude, had determined from a young age that he preferred the bachelor life. Straight out of university, he was scouted by NASA and dedicated his life to scientific pursuits. At his brother's wedding, however, where he had the role of best man, I overheard him tell Kendrick that he couldn't wait for some nieces and nephews to spoil rotten. So, my youngest got married, and I was a mess. I cried through the whole thing. The rehearsal dinner, ceremony, reception, and even the brunch the following day. My husband Kyle kept a stock supply of tissues with him to silently hand me as the quiet tears flowed down my cheeks. I'm a crier, so he was prepared. I cried because I was so proud of him. I cried because I could feel and see the powerful love that flowed between him and his partner. It was tangible, breathtaking. I cried because as he stood at the end of the aisle watching his partner walk slowly towards him, his smile huge and beaming, a flash of him as a little boy smiling at me coming down the sidewalk to pick him up from school popped up in my memory. But most of all, I cried because he was on his own journey now. They both were. My boys, whom I saw grow from helpless little babies to rambunctious little boys, had followed their own paths and found joy in adulthood. And what a privilege it had been watching it all. On the flight back to our home 3,000 miles away in California, my husband and I reminisced about their childhood's long days and short years. Our hearts practically burst with pride. When the plane touched down and we walked out the gate hand in hand, I felt like we were walking towards a new future all our own. Always there for our adult children whenever they need, their anchors but not their priorities. And that was okay. That was the goal. They have whole and beautiful lives all their own now, and I couldn't be happier. That happiness was short-lived. As Kyle and I left the airport in our electric car heading towards our cozy home surrounded by redwood trees, the radio station crackled and an alert rang out. Alert. This is not a test. The National Headquarters for Disease Control is issuing a warning. Alert. A disease-causing biological agent has been introduced in the Southern California area that is quickly spreading. If you can, remain or return to your homes immediately. Quarantine until further instruction is given. The alert repeated, and Kyle and I listened to it twice before the panic set in. I immediately called Jude and Kendrick and Kendrick's spouse on a group call. They all answered within the first ring, fear etched on their faces. Mom, are you okay? Did you hear? Jude asked frantically. Yes, sweetie, we just heard the alert. I tried calling you, but you must have still been in flight. We got the news at work and they said it's dire. The three faces on the screen before me had mirrored expressions of dread. Tell her what you know, Kendrick insisted. According to the documents I received, this is an act of biological warfare. It started in Southern California and is causing people to, for lack of a better word, behave like zombies. It's a bloodbath, Jude said matter-of-factly, using the straightforward approach that has followed him from childhood. Zombies? I replied, face blanching. Kyle silently shook his head in disbelief beside me. Mom, they have no way to stop it yet, and at the rate it's moving, it'll sweep the entire West Coast before the weekends. That quickly? I said, barely a whisper. Mommy, Kendrick said, almost as quietly, tears forming in his kind eyes. You should have stayed. You guys should have stayed. They were scared for us. They weren't even thinking of themselves. But if this is moving as quickly as they have said, then they should be scared for them. It's time to snap back into mom mode. I haven't had to do this for a long time. I hope I'm not too rusty. Erasing any signs of fear from my face and instead invoking my fiercest and stoniest glare, I leveled my voice and began. Do you remember what I always used to tell you? Stay together. Play together, Jude and Kendrick finished in practice unison. Your daddy and I have lived a beautiful life, and when we get home, we will go about our day as usual. I'll maybe paint, and daddy will read. We will cuddle up and watch one of our shows, and as we fall asleep, we'll chit-chat about our day, our lives, and our love. And we will be okay with whatever end comes our way, I said. But Mom, Jude tried interrupting, but I stopped him. You three, my babies, my children, protect each other, stay together. I love you tremendously, and I'm so very proud of you. Don't let thoughts of us slow you down. I love you all so much, Kyle added. He was always a man of few words, but you could see so much of what was unsaid in his denim blue eyes. Please, can't you come back? Kendrick pleaded, tears streaming freely down his eyes. I left you a box on your bed before I left, Kendrick. Open it with your brother. I almost didn't bring it, but now I'm so glad I did. It is photos from your childhood and letters your daddy and I have written for you boys throughout the years. No matter what, we are always with you. My last words trailed off. The screen began to flicker, and alerts blared across my screen. Mom! The boys shouted, their voices buzzing with the interference as service came dangerously close to dropping. Mom and Dad, I love you, I heard Kendrick say. I love you both so much. We'll protect each other, promise, Jude added just as the call ended. I tried calling back from my phone and Kyle's, but the service was entirely shot. The final alert warned that there were significant cellular and Wi-Fi interruptions. I reached over and held Kyle's hand, and we exchanged a quick, sad glance as he continued driving through the winding roads of Lake Tahoe toward our home. At least they have each other, I thought. At least we have each other. The end.
No.
Got a little choked up.
No.
Walking down the aisle.
I'm not gonna let my tears come out, but I can feel it in my chest.
Because we know and love them, and I was just like, oh, the boys. Had an emotional moment there. That was really good. So that was Chantae's apocalypse story. We're excited to see what you guys are bringing to the table. I know my approach to the apocalypse is different. I'm going with aliens. So we'll see. You guys will see. And Brittany, what about you? How did you come at the apocalypse?
I mean, I did zombies more in a traditional fashion, except animals are gonna be included. So that's all I'm gonna share. Like, I already have my idea, and like, I started it, and I can already feel myself getting emotional. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's actually why it's so hard to write about the apocalypse with you as the main character. I had a really tough time writing it in the future. It made me super emotional. I couldn't imagine trying to write it as if the apocalypse were happening now. I would be an absolute mess. I'm an emotional writer. What about you guys?
Well, mine is set like pretty immediately in the present. I would say maybe like a year, maybe 2 years into the present. So it's not too far off in my story. So yeah. I mean, I haven't gotten to the point where it's like emotional in the writing of it yet. And that's where I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna wind up being my short story submission or not, because I'm like 2,000 words deep, and
whoa.
I still am like, don't know. It just like, I initially started, I told you guys I wrote something and it was like basically a whole story, and then I was like, but this sucks. So then I went back and started editing it, and then in the edit process, like, it just grew into something more. Yeah. And so I'm like, well, I don't know. I might have to write something else for the. So it might not be aliens for you guys. We'll see. But yeah, I'm not in the emotional aspect of it yet, but I probably will cry if it gets to that point, because I'm trying to challenge myself more in writing to deal with subjects and issues like in a more raw way, and like things that are actually like not holding back in like exploring certain things, especially like feelings wise. So we'll see. What about you, Brittany?
I know I'm gonna cry. I cry every time I write a death scene, unless it's somebody that really deserves it. But then it's like I made them deserve it, so then it's like I don't know. But yeah. When I was writing my novel and I had to kill off one of the characters that I loved, like, I boo-hooed the whole time, like she was my kid.
Same. I was a mess especially with that last one. I was crying the whole time. I was writing, like, every time I would open up the file, I was like,
like, do I really want to put myself through that in the second book? But I know I'm gonna do it because I started it, and I'm like,
yeah,
I got so many more people to kill and so many more emotions to cry, and I'm just like,
hey, why you got more people to kill, Brittany? Don't do that.
It's a war.
All right, George R.R. Dang. Killing everybody off.
Yes, it's a thing that happens, especially in war.
Just don't kill out any of my favorites.
I don't know which one. I would kill some people, but I mean, if you can fight me, I'll fly out there. I'll let you do it.
She said, no promises made here. It is what it is.
Dang.
So, again, just a reminder, make sure you submit your stories. We really want to hear from you guys. It's Monday, the 22nd by 11:59 p.m. Make sure you submit your stories to us. 500 words minimum. If you go longer, it's fine, but anything less than 500 words is not accepted. So the winner will be announced next Sunday, in our next Sunday Sips. And throughout the week, like we said, we'll be sharing our stories, Brittany and I. So you'll have that to look forward to. And then the winner will be announced at the next Sunday recording. Yay!
And we will email you your gift card if you are the winner.
Yes. So sorry, I was taking a sip. But thank you guys so much for joining us for this Sunday Sips. Until next time, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share our content. We hope that it's helping you. And yeah, we love you guys.
Bye.